Maniacs, welcome back to the channel. Now, for the past few days now, you probably noticed I have not been making a lot of uploads, and there's a reason behind that. Most of you guys know that, unfortunately, ever since I went to work on Monday, I came back home, and that's when I got sick. I went home, I was shivering, I had the chills, I took a hot shower, I got out of the shower, went upstairs to my room, and then I started having this really bad stomach pain, and then my head started pounding. And automatically, I felt like I just caught COVID again. And thankfully, it's not COVID. I did a test. It's not COVID. So it was some sort of flu. I have been sick the past few days now, and I don't want to film when I'm sick. It's very hard to do that when you're just not feeling your 100%. You know, you just don't want to have to do anything at that point. You just want to lay down and relax. And that's kind of what I've been doing these past few days now. And I'm very glad I didn't push myself. I just feel like it would have made me worse. We're going to be doing quite a few Christmas horror stories stuff, so if you like this type of content, want some more content like this, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We're going to be diving into more Mr. Nightmare stuff. You guys seem to really enjoy the last one, so we're going to go ahead and continue these. I think they're fun to listen to. It's like telling ghost stories around a campfire. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. So here we go. We're going to be watching two disturbing true Christmas Eve horror stories. All right, let's go ahead and dive into this bad boy. Come on.
Last year on Christmas Eve, I was working late. I'm 23. I work in New York City and commute home every day on the train.
New York City
Since I'm
Christmas?
one of the younger ones in the office, I got stuck with one of the worst shifts, so I wasn't able to get home until 5 o'clock. My family had already left a whole hour earlier to go to my cousin's house, so I had to drive alone. After having a quick snack before the half-hour drive, I got back in my car and put my cousin's address into my phone. Halfway through the drive, it started snowing. I got to my
New York City, dude. Christmas Eve, working in New York City. No, thank you. Oh my gosh. I mean, I used to complain when working here in Ohio, just like in the rural area stuff. I couldn't imagine Christmas in this one of the world's biggest cities. No way. No way. No, thank you.
my cousin's house around 6 o'clock.
If you guys have ever worked on Christmas in the city, let me know in the comment section. I know a lot of you guys are from the city and whatnot who watch my videos. Let me know if you guys have actually worked in the city during Christmas and how bad does it get, specifically in like New York or Seattle.
It was snowing heavily by this point, and I just made it in time to catch everyone starting dinner.
Nice.
I brought all of my gifts inside and cheerfully said hey to everyone. I stayed until around 11 o'clock. The rest of my family left a little sooner. I stayed an extra half hour or so just to hang out before leaving myself. By the time I was leaving, the ground had accumulated at least 2 feet of snow, and it wasn't even done snowing.
2 feet.
The drive home was nightmarish. The roads were hardly even plowed, and I had to drive under 20 miles per hour on most roads. The roads were completely dead at this point though, most likely because everyone was smart enough to go home before the snow accumulated. Eventually I turned onto a main road that I'm sure would usually be bustling, but at 11:15 on Christmas Eve night, there wasn't a single car or a single light from a store. It was a ghost town. But then I did notice the flashing taillights of one car. It was parked on the side of the road, and the smoke seeping out from its exhaust with the taillights giving it a red tint. As I got closer, I realized there was somebody next to the car waving their hand in the air. I assumed something was wrong and they needed help. So, me being the good Samaritan I am, I pulled up behind the car. When I opened my door, the guy approached me immediately, barely even giving me time to step out. He was an average-sized man, probably 5'10", 180 pounds. He spoke in a very demanding voice, asking me if I know anything about fixing an engine. I told him I didn't know much about cars. The guy responded very quickly to everything I said. He told me it's fine. He went inside of his car for a second, popped open his trunk, came back out and told me to just wait by the trunk for a second. I had no idea what he wanted me to do.
No.
I was really confused. He walked over to the front of his car.
You see, this is why. Okay, this is why I have a hard time. Like, even if the person really, like, actually needs help, and it's scary in these situations, because you just don't know. there actually could be a person who needs genuine help on the side of the road, especially in the middle of a snowstorm, and you want to get out and help them, but you know for a fact that people warn you all the time, do not trust hitchhikers because they could be bad people. They could have bad intentions. I'm sorry, like even if it was a person in desperate need, I might even still pass you. That's not like because I'm like a bad person. It's just I don't want to risk anything. And I think anybody with the right mindset would agree with that. Like you just don't want to risk anything because you just don't know.
And I heard him open the hood. I couldn't see anything he was doing since the trunk was blocking my view, and the loud wind of the snowstorm overpowered any small noises he might have been making. I put my hand on the back of the car and leaned my body in anticipation, when suddenly I heard 3 or 4 quick and aggressive footsteps in the snow behind me before I was pushed into the trunk. The man tried to close the trunk on me, but I kicked my feet up in resistance and held it up.
Jesus.
I was able to overpower him and kick the trunk open completely. As I took advantage of the few seconds I had to get out of the trunk, I took out my keys. He tried to grab me now, and I dug my house key right into his neck.
Nice. Damn.
Fell to his knees, and his scream echoed down the deserted street.
Fuck yeah.
I was in my car and halfway down the road before he could even get up from his knees. A little further down, I called 911 and reported the guy. I came back in 10 minutes to find blue and red lights illuminating the windows of the deserted stores.
Serves you right, man. Serves you fucking right. Probably one of those sex trafficker people. Fuck yeah. Dig your fucking keys into their neck, the pieces of shit. Want to play that game? Damn, dude. Hell yeah. Smart. Sorry. I don't like when things are resolved in violence, but to save your own ass, yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. Sorry.
The police held him until the ambulance arrived for him. I watched the whole thing, and nothing ever felt better in my life. I got home safely half an hour later and told my family everything. I was still very shaken that Christmas, and this remains possibly the most horrific thing I've ever experienced.
Oh, wow, good for him.
It was Christmas Eve, 2009. I was 18 years old, working at CVS. Unfortunately, I got stuck with a closing shift on Christmas Eve, meaning I'd be the only one there until midnight. I was considering quitting over it, but my parents weren't for that. The CVS was 5 miles from my house on a rather quiet corner on a dead-end street. During the day, it would normally be busy, at least busy enough to stay in business, but past 8 o'clock it would be uncommon to see any customers. On Christmas Eve night, I didn't expect to see a single soul past 8 o'clock. My shift started at 4, and it was surprisingly busy for the first few hours. As I expected, past 8 o'clock it really started to die down. The pharmacy closed at 10 tonight for Christmas Eve. Unfortunately, that meant I'd be alone at the register up front for 2 hours. Plus, I had a crush on the girl who was working the pharmacy, and we were talking most of the time the store was empty, so I was upset she was leaving. A whole hour went by, and I only rang up one customer. Come 11 o'clock, I was already getting excited.
Probably didn't have a big enough crush on you if she was already ready to leave by the time her shift ended. She's like, nope, bye, see ya. My shift is over.
For my shift to end. I'd been the only one in the entire building besides one customer for the past hour, and I was losing my mind. Suddenly, there was a very slight tap on the window. It didn't sound intentional,
great. Sound
though.
effects.
It sounded more so like somebody's zipper accidentally scraped against the glass. I turned to look out the window and saw a man out there. Heavy coat on, hood over his head, baggy jeans, and black boots. He was staring right at me. A few seconds after he realized that I noticed him, he walked over to the entrance and entered the store. He stared at me as he walked past and down one of the aisles before disappearing behind the shelves. Then, 5 minutes later, the tapping noise began.
Like him tapping his fingers on something?
It sounded like it was coming from one of the aisles. I walked a little to the right behind the counter just to check down the aisle. Nobody was there, though. The tapping was so consistent and deliberate, I knew it was the man making the noise. But where was it coming from? I didn't know, but I had a sudden urge to go to the bathroom. Only problem, I wasn't supposed to go to the bathroom when there was a customer in the store and I was alone with them. 10 minutes or so passed and I didn't see the customer, but I would occasionally hear the weird tapping noise coming from one of the aisles. It got to the point that I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped out from behind the counter and called out, excuse me? I started walking around the aisles, looking for this man that walked in. He was nowhere to be seen, but every aisle I entered, I would hear noises coming from the next aisle over. I walked down the candy aisle and heard some of the sleigh bells jingling on the other side of the shelf, like someone was intentionally shaking them.
It sounds like this guy is literally waiting for him to go down one of the aisles and then move over to the next aisle and then start tapping on the next aisle and then move to the next one as he moves. It sounds like he's playing a game with him.
I tried to peek through the tiny holes in the shelves to see if I could see him. I saw something completely unexpected and horrifying instead. I saw a pair of eyes staring back at me through the tiny holes in the shelf. The eyes moved away, and then the tall man entered the aisle I was in. He was making these weird noises like a child or someone who had just escaped a mental asylum.
Fuck that.
He started laughing and doing this weird tiptoe kind of hopping over to me. It sounds funny, but it was a straight up disturbing scene.
Oh yeah,
He
no.
was approaching...
Dude, late at night, you're by yourself, you're the only employee there, and there's a guy doing this out of nowhere on near Christmas, and he's being weird. No. It sounds like Billy from Black Christmas. You ever watched the original Black Christmas, you'll know what I'm talking about. It sounds like him almost.
So fast that I actually began to fear for my life. I started walking away from him, and he followed me everywhere in his weird hopping. I was back at the front of the store, ready to call my manager or the cops.
Don't call the manager. That's how you die. Call the cops immediately.
I looked back at him and saw that he was frozen at the end of the first aisle, maybe 20 feet away from me. His goofy, eerily happy face turned to an aggressive, angry-looking stare of malice. I was officially done with this and walked out the front door.
I'm done.
And to my horror, the man started charging at me. No more goofy hopping around. He was sprinting at me. I ran outside the store, too afraid to go to my car, because I feared he'd get me before I could lock the door. I ran around back and entered through the back door, which was still unlocked. I didn't know if he was still on my tail or not. I locked the door and hurried to the front of the store, where I locked the front door too. That was when I picked up the phone on the counter and called my manager, who was luckily still awake. I told him I had to leave immediately because somebody crazy was following me. Then I thought I heard something over my conversation. It was coming from inside the store. I put the phone down and realized it was the tapping again, coming from one of the aisles. I was out of that store and in my car within 20 seconds. I never came back. I called my manager when I got back home, and he called the cops. Surprisingly, nothing was stolen, or so I heard from a friend. My manager obviously wasn't too fond of me for leaving his store like that, so I never spoke to him again. I had his normal...
Fuck the manager. Your life is more important than a bunch of shit at a fucking pharmacy. I mean, would I have left the store? Probably not. I probably would have just went behind the desk. I probably would have picked up the phone and just called the cops, right? It'd be like, you have 20 seconds to leave or the cops are going to be here. Because, like, it's so tough, man, because, you know, you could make up a whole bunch of excuses for this guy and so many reasons and whatnot, but it depends on the person who's working there. Some people would have the courage to actually look at the person and say, all right, if this is your idea of a joke, then so be it, but I don't find it funny. You have about 20 seconds to leave the store or I call the cops. I mean, you could have said something like that, and the person probably would have left. There's a lot of people in this world who will do shit like this to scare you. For all we know, this freak could have been just a guy just trying to freak him out. He saw that he was the only employee there and wanted to spook him, see how far he can get with it. Which, at the end of the day, I still can't blame him. I certainly wouldn't want to risk my life. If he felt like his life was actually if he thought his life was about to end and he thought this guy was, like, really dangerous, then yeah, leave the store, man. Don't even think about it. Just leave. I wasn't there, so I can't really speak for him too much. All I can say is what I think just by hearing the story.
The Christmas as possible.
But yeah, screw that.
Given what happened the day before.
Okay, so out of both of those stories, I gotta say, the first one was just satisfying to hear that the guy actually did something. You know, like the fact that this dude tried to push him into his trunk. He pulled out his key and stabbed the guy in the neck. I thought that was like, I mean, yeah, he kind of deserved it. I mean, you don't know what he was trying to do. I mean, shove you into the trunk of his car. He was probably gonna try to sell you into the sex slavery or sex trafficking and shit like that. Which is that shit can. It doesn't matter. You could be a guy, you could be a girl, you could be a kid. It don't matter. You could be sold into that stuff, and it is scary. It's dangerous, scary. The second story though, I gotta say, was creepier by far. Yeah, this guy coming in making the tapping noises, certainly a creepier story, but at the end of the day, those were pretty good. I gotta say, those were pretty solid. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Out of the two stories, which one was your favorite one? Hit the like button again, subscribe to the channel, and I will certainly check you out in the next video. Keep it retro. Do take care.